Welcome to our time together to talk about conscious discipline. Today we're going to talk about the brain states because how many times have you said, why in the world does my child act like this? We've got some answers for that today, and we're going to have fun talking about it. And when we say, why does my child act like this is exactly what we're talking about, right? Because when they're not acting like this, that answer is easy, right? They're acting like this because I'm their parent and I'm such a good role model, and look at this amazing kid I have created. And then when they're acting like this, we don't know where they get that, right? My name's Heather. I am a longtime YMCA employee. I have worked in early childhood education for the whole time I've been a Y employee, since the late 1900s. And I'm also a mom. Okay, so we know that teaching requires the adult to possess the skills that they hope to pass on to the child, right? Nobody's going to have a hard time grabbing hold of that. If we're trying to help our child with advanced math and we don't know advanced math, then we've got a problem, right? We can't teach someone Spanish or a foreign language if we don't know that language ourselves. The same goes for social and emotional learning, which is managing emotions and conflict, and if we've never been taught how to confront the world when it's not going our way, and identify and manage our emotions and deal with all of that, then how can we pass that on to our child? So we definitely live in a do as I say, not as I do world. We were raised in a do as I say, not as I do world, right? Teachers and parents and family and our government, we are for sure do as I say, not as I do, right? But really, as an adult, we have every right to be sad and upset. Things happen. Things happen for us to get sad and upset, and that's okay. But not them, right? I'll give you something to cry about, kid, right? We're allowed to get angry. There are a lot of reasons for us to get really frustrated and angry, but not them, right? Fix your face. This is disrespectful. We're allowed to get anxious and scared, but not them. You have no reason to be acting like this. Do as I say, not as I do, right? Behavior is communication. And that's an easy concept to wrap your head around if you've never heard it before, because we know that when their behavior looks like this, it's communicating something to us, and we probably think it's communicating disrespect, ungratefulness, a spoiled kid, but I'm really excited to tell you that that's wrong, because nobody wants to think that of our own children, right? Even of other people's children. This is not the way to go. So we need to better understand what these behaviors and others are communicating. So for us to get ready, let's get our brains relaxed, alert, and ready to learn. And we're going to do that by just taking 3 deep breaths. So just take a moment with me to take a big deep breath in, right? Fill all the way up, push your belly out, and then exhale and pull your belly in. Let's do it again. Breathe in, fill up deep. Exhale, let it go, let your shoulders drop. One more time, deep breath in, fill all the way up, and then let that breath go. Let your jaw release, let your face relax. We want to be ready to take in some new information. So let's just take a second to commit. Are you willing to just keep an open mind as we go through these next several minutes talking about your child's brain and linking it to behavior? The beautiful thing about talking about the brain when it comes to behavior is it's all based in science. It's not an opinion. And we know there's a lot of opinions in parenting and taking care of children, right? Everybody's got an opinion. Everybody's got a judgment about how you're doing it. And we've got judgments about how other people are doing it too. So the beautiful thing about conscious discipline, and certainly about the brain, is it's based in brain research. So we're not going to talk about opinions today. We're just going to talk about fact. And I'm asking that you just keep an open mind. Learn something a little different, maybe an opportunity to shift your perspective about your own behavior and the behavior of the people around you, adults and children alike. So when we're in our car and our gas tank needle is on E, it is providing information that we need to get gas in our car, right? It is a tool to communicate with us, even though our car can't talk to us. So are our child's outward actions. Their body, sometimes their voice is communicating to us that they need something. They need input from us, right? They don't need gasoline, but they need something else. So we're going to figure out what that is. And we're going to do that by talking about the brain. So the conscious discipline brain state model is broken into 3 parts, and we're going to talk about those 3 parts today. Your child is born with a whole brain inside their head, a whole beautiful brain already. But these different brain states we're going to talk about today come online at different times. And we're going to talk about them from the bottom to the top because that's how they wire. Each brain state relies on the brain state below it, on the needs to be met there before it can wire up. So neural pathways, right? These brain connections, they make more brain connections before the age of 5 than ever again in the rest of their life. So they're going to make them no matter what happens, good or bad, but the more meaningful, the more loving, the more positive the interactions that your child has, the more beautiful and loving and strong those pathways are going to be, and they're going to go up. And that's what we need. So the brain stem we call the survival state. When the need for the survival state is met, and that comes online right when they're born, then they can wire up to the emotional state, which is right there in the center, that blue one. And when the need is met for the emotional state, they can wire up to the executive state. Lots of beautiful things happen in the executive state that we're going to talk about. Okay, so starting with our survival state, it does come online as soon as you're born. That's pretty easy to understand because what are babies all about? Survival. Man, that is their number one job, is survival. And every brain state has a question, and the survival state asks, am I safe? And that is a baby's question, right? Over and over again, am I safe? Am I safe? Am I safe? I need food, I need connection, I need loved, I need held, I need changed. Am I safe? Okay, so it's our most primitive brain state. And, back in the day, in the cave days where a saber-toothed tiger might be rolling up in your cave, you need your survival state. You need it to kick in right away so that you can get the heck out of there, right? Safety. We're all for safety. Am I safe? That saber-toothed tiger says, no, I got to get on out of here. So this brain state is unconscious. It acts right away. We don't have to think about it. When rocks are falling down the mountain, we know we should probably get out of there, but ducking is also an option, right? We know that we need to act right away. It's not the time to have a conversation about it. We need to get out of there right away. And again, a baby cries when they need our help with something. They rely on us completely. And when a baby cries, we understand that crying is communication, right? And we accept it and we're okay with that. But the second they start to get like a couple of words, now we don't want them to cry for communication anymore. Our expectations get way overblown about what they can do. And now we don't want to listen to that crying anymore. For the survival state, when that alarm comes on, the survival state is our alarm that's like, we need to seek safety. Here's how we're going to do it. Go. Okay. The important thing to remember, though, is it's perceived safety, because we don't have saber-toothed tigers rolling up in our house. We probably don't confront rock slides a lot, right? And we're not babies anymore. And maybe we don't have a baby in our house. So what does perceived safety means? It really means we don't get to decide whether someone else feels safe or not. That's up to them, their brain, their internal regulation system. And some of the things in our world today that make us feel unsafe, that make us feel like a tiger's coming at us, are changes in routine, especially for children. Or, do you have anxiety? It probably might make you feel a little something when there's a change in routine and you don't know what's happening either. So a child coming into school and their teacher is off. Their teacher's off for 2 weeks at daycare, and they've got 2 different teachers and they're in a different room for the next 2 weeks. That can feel really unsafe, perceived safety. And sometimes that's for us too. Have you ever gotten a new boss? Right? That can feel really unsafe. change. We don't know what's coming at us. That can also feel really unsafe. An out of control adult, certainly for children, does not feel safe. And most of the time it doesn't feel very safe for us either. New stuff, new things coming at us that we don't know what to expect can really trigger that safety inside us. Have you ever been with your child and a dog is like galloping towards them and it's scary, and the owner says, oh, they're friendly, right? Does them saying they're friendly make your heart stop beating out of your chest because this dog is coming at you? Maybe like a little bit, but it doesn't shut it off, right? Them saying she's fine, the dog's fine, she's nice, doesn't shut that off for you. We need to decide if we feel safe with this dog, right? So think about that dog, and you're driving down the road and a dog runs out in front of your car and you slam your brakes on. The survival state, right? To keep you safe, your brain reacted immediately. Your body reacted immediately to keep the dog and certainly yourself and the people in your car safe. We do not need to pause and thoughtfully reflect on what our next best move is when something runs out in front of our car. We need that survival state to kick in right away. So think about when something like that happens, when you have slammed your brakes on. What happens? Whoosh, right? You get a whoosh, a rush of adrenaline. And that is where we come to our skills. When we're in our survival state, we have access to a set of skills, and it's fight, flight, freeze, right? And most of us know exactly what that feels like when that comes up on you, that rush of chemicals, your heart is beating really fast. That's important. That is our body is preparing us for quick action, to fight, to flight, to run away, or to freeze and shut down. So survival state is so important. Often we talk about it like it's a bad thing, but obviously we really need it. It's important. So this is what fight, flight, or freeze might look like for our child, right? They might be hitting us. They might be punching someone. They might be running away from us. They might be completely shutting down, right? When we're trying to talk to them. That's what it might look like in our child. So remember, perceived safety, because in the moment where I'm in my home and my child's done something wrong and I am telling them exactly what they should be doing differently and they're shut down, okay? Perceived safety. I don't get to decide, you're fine, you're safe. I just need to recognize what their behavior, what their body is communicating to me, and what it is communicating to me in every one of these unsafe behaviors is, am I safe? They are asking us this, right? Am I safe? They show this in some really unsafe ways. When they're asking, am I safe? Imagine that they're asking, if I punch you, and remember, this is unconscious. They're not thinking, if I punch her, will she still, is she a safe person? Can she handle this? They're not thinking it. It's unconscious. But the body is asking for safety, and I'm going to make you tell me whether I'm safe or not. Are you going to be a safe person when I'm at my worst? Okay, so the biggest thing to remember when we're trying to identify the survival state is nonverbal no eye contact. This is not when they're giving us the business and calling us names and they're not making eye contact with us. Okay, so remember that nonverbal no eye contact. Most of the time these survival state behaviors are really unsafe. Okay. So the survival state is triggered by perceived threat. The skills that we have access to, that they have access to, and we have access to, it's the same, are fight, flight, surrender, shut down, right? And our intent when we are in our survival state is hurt, it's punish, right? We want to make them pay for their behavior. So the biggest threat to any child and most people, the biggest threat to their sense of safety is an out-of-control adult, right? It's an out-of-control adult. So the key to providing safety for your child is a conscious, mindful adult. And that's a simple answer, and it's a hard thing to do, right? But conscious is really about us taking that moment to press the pause button see the behavior in front of us, this unsafe, big physical behavior. This child is asking for safety. So I'm going to provide a safe adult. Because remember, if we want to get moving, we're not going to let them get away with the behavior. Okay? And that's important, because this is where we lose people sometimes. It's like, if my child is trying to hit me, right, or is lying on the floor, kicking and pounding the floor and screaming and crying, I am not going to let them get away with it. So this isn't about letting anybody get away with anything. But if we want to change the behavior, we need them to be able to learn a new skill and learn something, right? So we need to provide the safety first. And we do that by pausing, by being conscious of our actions and how we handle it, being mindful, pause, take a breath. Because when we do that, we are showing them how to handle upset and conflict, right? We are building a blueprint for them for the rest of their lives on how to handle upset and conflict, on what to do when you're feeling scared by something, right? Because if they are in their survival state and we react in a big, unsafe way, what are we showing them? This is how you act. This is what you do. This is what you do when people are acting in a way that you don't like. This is what you do when you handle conflict. So remember in the beginning when I said when they're, everything's good, we're like, look at my kid. He's a mini me, right? My gosh, am I doing a great job? And then when they're screaming because, something's happening, or they're punching the wall because they're upset, then we're like, where did this come from? And we barrel in there, right? Screaming, okay? Okay, so mindful, conscious adult, when we are able to stay calm and answer that question, am I safe, with a yes, you are safe with me. Yes, you are safe with me. I'm a safe person. Then we're creating a different path for them than the path that most of us got from the adults around us. We're doing our best. The adults who brought us up and gave us our blueprint were also doing their best. But if they didn't have skills, we don't have them either. So let's change that for our kids, right? When we meet the need for safety, then we get to wire up to the next brain state. So if you have the time, this is a great time to press the pause button. If you're with someone listening to this, talk about what your child's behaviors look like. Think about what are some of the things that happen with your child that you can now look at and say, like, my gosh, I bet that was survival state. How did I respond to that? Was I providing safety, right? Or maybe just think about something that's interesting to you about the survival state, and then come back to this. When we think about providing safety and meeting the need for that lower brain state, for the survival state, think about it like a house, right? If we're going to build a house, we need a really strong foundation for that house. Can you build a house on just a patch of dirt with nothing? I mean, I don't know, really. Yeah, I'm guessing you can. How long is it going to last? How healthy and sturdy? How well is that house going to be able to protect us and give us what we need without that sturdy, strong foundation, right? So that is our survival state, is providing that strong foundation. And then we can build this next floor onto our house. And that's where we're going to provide connection. The emotional state asks, am I loved? Am I loved? And like, of course you love your kids and they know that you love them. This is different. This is belonging. This is, in my worst moment, do you still love me? Right? When I am at my worst, does my partner, does my friend, do they still love me? That's what our kids feel like too, right? We're born with a sense of belonging. In fact, that's part of safety, right? For babies, like they need people around them to help them survive. That need to belong is inside us, and it doesn't ever go away. And think about growing up and looking for that sense of belonging can be really, really difficult. It's hard as an adult too, right? So am I loved? Are we connected? Do you care about me? That's the question that's happening in our emotional state. So when we talk about the skills in our emotional state, it looks a little like this.
I don't want to blame anyone in particular. I think everyone's to blame.
blame. That's one of the things that comes out when we are in our emotional state. So the skills that we have access to when we're in our emotional state, and listen, hear me say this. This is also an unconscious brain state, because when your child is whining, when they are calling you names, when they're blaming somebody else for what just happened, for what just happened, for what's going on, right? When they're being verbally aggressive, we think that there's a lot happening here, right? That there's a lot of decision making happening, and this is an unconscious brain state. When we are triggered into our emotional state, this is an unconscious brain state. And guess what this brain state is triggered by? It's triggered by the world not going my way. And how often does the world not go your way? How often does the world not go a kid's way? Man, some days are tough. And for kids, we make all their decisions. You know, there is so many things that might not go their way, right? If we want something for breakfast, we make a choice on what we want for breakfast, not kids. You know, they don't get a choice in so many things as they walk through their day. So the opportunity for the day to not go their way is really out there, right? Some days we can handle it better than others. Some kids can handle it better than others. But the emotional state is triggered by the world not going our way. It's asking, am I loved? And it looks like all of these things that are probably triggers for us, right? Attention seeking, that social exclusion, you know, you're not coming to my birthday party, and shame. And man, we do that a lot, right? We also do that. These are also our skills when we're in our emotional state. So when our child is doing all of these unloving things, this is when we pause and we recognize this is emotional state behavior, right? This is emotional state behavior. And so if I want to answer, am I loved, with a yes, I need to stay calm. Am I going to let him get away with, any of these things? Nope, I don't have to. You know, sometimes it's okay to just let it go and move on. But we want them to learn a better way. So we can't just move on, right? We can't just move on. We can't go at them when they're in our emotional state. Can they hear us in an unconscious brain state? No. And if we're triggered and upset by these, we're probably in our emotional state too. So these are not the ways that we want our child to learn lessons. It might be the way that we learned lessons. Sometimes we reflect back on, you know, growing up and think that, like, well, my parents yelled at me all the time, or my parents used this kind of punishment, or my parents blamed me for everything and I turned out fine. And then we start to realize, is it fine, right? Am I fine? Because I don't have any other skills to teach my child, and sometimes this doesn't feel good. And we forget how bad that stuff felt when it was happening to us, right? We're looking for other things. And so in that same area of the brain, in the amygdala, right here where our emotional state resides, is also a little home, and housed inside it is all of the terrible things that people have said to us growing up and through our lives. It holds our memories, right? And wouldn't it be great if our brain only stored the sweet, loving memories? But it's hard to hold on to those. It's not so hard to hold on to the names that we were called, or the way that we were blamed for things, the shame that was put on us when we were growing up, you know, the names that might have been put onto us when we were growing up. We hold on to those. And when we're in our emotional state, this is triggered. Those things start to come out. And one of the things that comes out is our internal playlist that somebody else made for us. This is not a playlist we made. We might keep playing it over and over again in our emotional state, but somebody else put these songs on there for us, right? And they might be songs like, you're not enough, you're lazy, right? Stop crying, nobody likes you, right? You can't do anything right. So think about being in your emotional state, and in that unconscious state, that starts to creep up on you, and then you start saying that to yourself, right? And then maybe we start putting these things onto our kids. So our outer voice becomes their inner voice, their inner playlist. So we're going to be careful about the things that we say when we're upset and they're upset, because we're going to know that those things are going to stick. And we're going to make a different playlist for our kids so that when they're growing up and their emotional state is triggered, they've got really positive helpful songs on their playlist. So the trigger is the world not going my way. The skills are things like name calling and clinginess, whining, attention seeking. And the adult intent in emotional state is stop. So in my emotional state, I just want it to stop. And I think that's a big cue for us as grown-ups to assess our own brain state is stop, right? So think about whining, name calling, all that stuff in front of you. What do you want? You probably want it to stop. That's your cue about your own brain state. We stay conscious, we stay mindful. If we can manage to take a breath and slow down and stay calm, then we're answering that question, you are loved. When you call me a name, my beautiful child, I do still love you. It's not gonna fly. We're gonna talk about that later, right? But I got you, right? You're safe with me. I love you no matter how you behave. The love for you from me, it never changes. No matter what you do, the love is the same. It's always there. And when we can meet that need and wire up to the next brain state, we've got some really good stuff coming. Again, if you paused last time, please pause, have those conversations about emotional state behaviors. Maybe reflect on your own internal playlist. What songs are on your playlist? When the world's not going your way, what's happening inside? What are you saying to yourself? When we meet that need, safety and connection, we get problem solving. We get to build that second floor. Can't have a second floor without a first floor, right? I guess you can try, but it's not gonna work out very well. So when we get to this emotional state, this frontal lobe, and this comes online when they are asking WH questions. The survival state comes online at birth. The emotional state comes online around toddlerhood. When they start telling you no, that's when that brain state comes online. And remember that if your children are whining, if they're calling you names, if they're telling you no, they feel safe enough with you. What's the right there? They feel safe enough with you to tell you no. And that's a great thing, okay? That's a great thing. So we're gonna love them enough when they're saying those things to get them to this frontal lobe, to this executive state where the question is, what can I learn? This is the brain state where we can teach and learn from. So this is where kids ask for help or are willing to accept our help, where there's problem solving and the ability to reflect, empathy, right? Thinking from another person's perspective and conflict resolution. Those only happen in our frontal lobe. So when something's going wrong in front of us, a behavior, this is what we want. We want them to be willing to take our help, to be willing to listen, to reflect on what they did, right? You need to think about what you've done as we scream it at them and then lock them away in their, probably not locking them, but make them go to their room and think about what they've done. This is where we need to be. Frontal lobe is where all that stuff is going to happen. And also frontal lobe is where we can do that for them. This is where we're willing to help, where we're able to help them, where we can reflect and be helpful, solve problems, where we can see conflict as a call for help. Right? Behaviors, communication, conflict is an opportunity to help and coach them through it, to model and show them how to solve this conflict, to show them, right? To show them, because it's not do as I say, not as I do. It's not, I'm going to scream at you, and then later I'm going to teach you a skill when I'm calm on how to handle conflict. But every time there's conflict, I'm going to show you that you can fly off the handle. This is how we handle it. I'm just going to lose it. It's do as I do. It's always going to be. Our words on how to handle upset mean very little. Our actions are showing them exactly what to do, right? So executive state is where we can teach and where they can learn. And I want to just take 1 second on the help. Has someone ever been like, I need you to help me, and then they don't do what they don't let you help, and they don't take your help, and they don't, sometimes we're like, I need help, but in those lower brain states, we can't accept help. Right? We can't accept help. We are saying, I need it. It's hard to accept it. We need to be in our executive state to be able to be thoughtful about the help that's being offered to us and accept it. So in our executive state is where we have access to our toolkit. Any of the tools that we have to solve problems, this is where we have access to it. Our wisdom, the things that we have learned over the years, we only have access to it in our executive state. So it's where we need to be to teach them what to do instead. In our executive state, live our executive skills. These come online at different times. And when I tell you that your child only has access to these executive skills in their executive state, in that frontal lobe, it is true. But know that they need these executive skills to be modeled for them, and they need to learn them and practice them in order to do it. So being in your executive state doesn't mean you can do all of these things. But if you want to do any of these things, learn them, teach them, or use them, you need to be in your executive state. Like attention. Wouldn't it be great if your child could pay attention to anything that you said? How about time management? Getting out the door in the morning, right? How long does it take to get ready? Organization, oh boy, this is tough for a lot of adults too, right? Because if we didn't have these modeled for us, if we didn't practice them, we might not have these skills either. But organization, how important is that? Keeping track of your papers, your homework, your clothes, your toys. Prioritization, what do I start first? Hey, go get ready for bed. Well, there's 8 things they have to do to get ready for bed. Where should they start? Here's a big one. Go clean your room when there are, at least in my child's room, 26 separate things that need to happen for that room to be clean, right? It's overwhelming. Where do they start? Flexibility, changes in plans. The schedule has changed. We're not doing this anymore. There's a different teacher. There's a different schedule. It's a different thing happening at school today. Mom's out of town for 2 days, right? Flexibility, emotional control. This is hard, right? This is what we're talking about right here. But being able to control your emotions, there's a lot to learn to be able to do that, and that happens in the executive state. Working memory, right? Like a Post-it note on your brain that tells you every step that you need to take. You need to be in your executive state to have it. Wouldn't it be great if you could tell your kids just like 2 or 3 step directions and they just remembered all of them and got them all done? I know if there's any teachers watching this, right, think about how many of these things you need your students to have. Metacognition, thinking about the way that we learn, what we need to learn. Impulse control, yep. We would love it if our kids had better impulse control, right? Task initiation, getting started, goal achievement, caring that you've finished, right? Just feeling good about finishing. And empathy. Dr. Becky Bailey, the creator of Conscious Discipline, says that empathy is the highest cognitive brain function, right? Thinking and feeling from another person's perspective. And we want to say, think about how you made her feel, which is giving more shame than it is empathy. But empathy is learned. It's got to be modeled for them. We have empathy for them. We show empathy for others in front of them, and that's how they learn empathy. So take a second, pause if you're able to, and really think about how many executive functions are needed for you to get to work on time. Forget getting your kids in the mix of this, but we need all of these: attention, time management, organization, prioritization, working memory, impulse control, not getting distracted, flexibility. Oh my gosh, my curling iron's not working. How am I going to finish my hair? Metacognition. What do I need to get through this? Goal achievement, task initiation. Those are all executive functions that you need every single day just to get out your door and get to work on time. And maybe a couple more if you have kids, right? That's a lot. So imagine what a kid needs just to get ready for bed. They need a lot of these things too. So even getting ready for bed, right? We're screaming at our kid to get ready for bed because really we have told them a million times, right? How old is your child? Times that by 365, and that's probably about how many times you've told them to get ready for bed. How do they not know? Why is it so difficult? That I don't have the answer to, but man, it does take a lot for them to just get ready for bed, okay? So executive functions are important. Being in the executive state is important. The executive state, the frontal lobe, is not fully developed until around the age of 24, 25. 24, 25, right? 24 or 25. So think about your 12-year-old, your 6-year-old, your 2-year-old, your 17-year-old. They are doing their best. They are doing their best. How can we model different tools for them so they can start to learn how to do it even better. The executive state does not mean that life is great and the world is perfect. It means when life is not perfect and the world is not great, I can handle it, right? I fell on the ice today. In my executive state, I can handle it. I can handle it, right? I've spilled coffee all over my keyboard. I can handle it. I cracked my phone. I can handle it. It doesn't mean I don't care. It doesn't mean I don't get upset, right, or complain about it. It means I can handle it. It's not sent me into a whirlwind of lower brain state behaviors. I can handle it, right? So we take these unwanted behaviors happen in front of us and we try to problem solve in the upset. We try to say right there in that moment, this is when we need to teach you. This is when we lecture. This is when we threaten, right? This is when we might try to give them a new skill and they're in an unconscious brain state. They're not somewhere that they can learn. So we do it differently. We do it differently. When we do it in their executive state, then and they need to practice, right? Everybody needs to do things more than once to learn a new skill and make it a habit. In our executive state is where we have access to these skills: wisdom, empathy, executive function, right? And our intent in our executive state can be to help and teach, okay? So let's do a little practice. If you are sitting and able to look at the screen, let's do a little practice. I think I used this picture, so this one might be easy, but what brain state does this look like? Yep. Looks like an unsafe behavior, no eye contact, right? Survival state. How about this one? No eye contact. There might be sound coming out, by the way, but it's not name calling. Survival state, right? How about this one? Emotional state, we've got some eye contact. They're upset, but there's some eye contact. How about the adult? What does this look like? Yeah, emotional state. That's emotional state. Stop. How about this? Child? Yeah, eye contact. How about the adult? Emotional state. What would you guess this is? Survival. How about this? Emotional state. How about this? It's time to clean up. I probably guess emotional state, but let's just pause here, because sometimes we say it's time to clean up, and they give us this face, and then they clean up. So here's something I want you to walk away with. This is such a helpful tool for me. This gets me on track daily, several times, certainly with my child, is what's the goal? Is your goal for them to clean up? Then we can let go of what the face looks like while they do it. Sometimes we remind ourselves and refocus on what the goal is, and we can let some of the other stuff go. Some days, maybe your goal is for them to clean up without a face or attitude, and so maybe we're gonna walk them through it, and we're gonna have a talk about that. But what's the goal? Because if your goal is to clean up, then sometimes we can let that face go. Let the words go, right? If I want my child to get ready for bed, and he stomps all the way back to the bathroom to do it, he's getting ready for bed. I can handle the stomping, right? Our state dictates their state. Our brain state dictates their brain state. Your child can never be in a higher brain state than you. You want to see executive state behaviors while you are in an emotional state or a survival state. It's not going to happen, right? It's not just about modeling. In that moment, they cannot be in a higher brain state than you. It's your job to pause and breathe and stay calm so that they can calm, and then you guys can move on. And this is the last one. How about this? Complaining. I don't want any oatmeal. Oh, you didn't want oatmeal today. That was a trick, because I bet you were going to say emotional state. It's executive state. One of the other skills that we have available to us in executive state is complaining. It'd be nice if our kids didn't complain. I complain all the time, by the way, but it's really annoying when my kid complains about everything. But it's executive state. We can complain in executive state. Remember, it doesn't mean life is perfect and everything's great. I might not want oatmeal. Okay, well, that's, okay, well, I can get you something else. Or tomorrow we're going to have something else. I don't want oatmeal, and then they throw the bowl against the wall, right? Then we might have another brain state in front of us. But remember that complaining does not mean that they're in an emotional state. Complaining is an executive state behavior. So listen, no adult, you might want to argue about this one, but really, no adult has lost their mind or their life because a child said no, right? But it feels like it, and here's why. R-E-S-P-E-C-T, find out what it means to me. R-E-S-P-E-C-T. Respect. Yeah. Oh, respect. When we feel disrespected, everything goes out the window. By a child, by an adult, by our partner, by anybody. Doesn't matter. When we feel disrespected, it goes out the window. And here's likely the reason why. The adults in our life, when we were growing up, demanded respect. And do you know what respect meant to them? And so for a lot of us, this is what respect means to us too. Obedience, right? We equate obedience, compliance with respect. You do what I say and you don't ask questions, that's respect. You don't question an adult, that's respect. You just do it, right? You don't backtalk, you don't whine, you just are perfect. If you're perfect, then you're respecting me and my authority and my role or whatever, right? This is going to be a tough one to let go of, but maybe can we just have a little shift in perspective here? Number one, we're not going to get sidetracked with this, but let me just push this little tidbit out. We do not want to teach our children that listening to an adult and doing what they say, because they're a grown-up and we're a grown-up, you're a kid, you do it. Because not every adult in the world is a safe adult. A lot of people get to take advantage of children because we teach them that you listen to an adult. And also there are a lot of really manipulative adults out there too. So this isn't to say that this is the case all the time, but we know that one of the ways that we can provide safety for our children is letting them know that you do not have to do everything an adult says. Not every adult is safe. Let's talk about what appropriate things are for adults to say, right? We want our kids to challenge and ask questions. That's how they learn, right? So it can't be that respect means you don't question me, you don't challenge me, you listen to me. Those are skills that we build. It's not about respect, right? It's not about respect. When we feel disrespected, it's all out the window. Any of these your hot buttons? Whining, spitting, lying, right? A lot of emotional state, right? These are emotional state things. And they might be triggers for you that put you in your emotional state. And doesn't it feel like your kids know exactly what these are? Like they know what they are and really like to push these buttons and sometimes like this. Have you had those days where your child is like, oh, on every single one of your buttons? Yes, it happens to us. What do we do?
I'm pretty sure parents are supposed to put their children before themselves.
Oh, really? No, if airplane safety videos have taught me anything, David, it's that a mother puts her own mask on first.
Bingo. We put our mask on first. We take a breath, a big, deep breath. We pause, we take a breath. We pause, we take a breath. When we can maintain our composure, now we're getting somewhere. Now we are showing our child a different way to handle upset and conflict for the rest of their lives. And here's something that's going to help us. Q-tip. Quit taking it personally. It feels personal. It's not personal. I promise. The behavior is happening in front of you. It's not happening to you. Their fit that they're having on the floor because their lower brain states are activated because their internal nervous system is just going crazy. They are dysregulated, kicking and screaming on the floor. That is happening in front of you. It's not happening to you. It's going to feel like it's happening to you, especially if it's at a store. It's not happening to you. It's happening to them. They need our help. This is help, help, help. I am so dysregulated. I need help. I can't help that I just got triggered because you said no to this thing that I wanted to buy, and now my nervous system is way out of whack and I can't handle it, right? That is not saying I'm going to punish you, Mom, and I'm going to embarrass you and everybody in this store is judging you, which that part might be true. But what they think about our parenting is none of our business, right? Here's how we're going to handle it. We're going to show our child a different way, right? If they're kicking and screaming because they didn't get the toy that they wanted, and then we kick and scream and pick them up and threaten them and drag them out the store, what did we teach them, right? You didn't get your way, and then I didn't get my way. Could it? Stop taking it personally. We changed the state. We changed the child's brain state. And we can do that. How powerful is that? You staying calm when they're in their survival state, right? You staying calm lets them know you're safe, right? And then you staying calm when they're in that emotional state and saying, I love you. Kicking and screaming in the middle of this grocery store, I love you so much. My love never changes for you. Then we can get to the executive state. And when we can change the state, then we can change the behavior. Change the state, change the behavior, okay? Please use other videos on this website because knowing what their behavior is communicating to you is really helpful. It is the first step. It is the first step. What do we do then? When we talk about changing the behavior and being in that executive state and teaching them new skills, what does that mean? Here are some other videos that are going to help you. So if sibling conflict is a thing in your house, or tattling, if you want to give your child their big voice, how to ask appropriately, assertively for what they want, how they want other people to treat them, then we've got a resource for you. So head right on back over to Discipline Support. This is a great first video, even if you've watched some of those. This is why your child's acting the way that they're acting. Let's get them to their executive state. And these videos are going to tell you how to provide them with a different skill. And they're going to give you some different skills too, because we do all this stuff too, right? We fight with people, grown-ups lie, we tattle. So head to these videos and we all get to learn something together. Thank you so much. I am wishing you well.